Last year I made a video comparing Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. In that video I said that Warriors Orochi was the winner. That's mostly because with Warriors games, it's more about the gameplay than the story to me. And since Warriors Orochi brought the best of both worlds to the table, it won my heart.
Warriors Orochi was originally released as a PS2 exclusive to say goodbye to that generation. It was a love letter to the fans, featuring every character that was included in the Dynasty Warriors or Samurai Warriors series, as well as a few original characters for story's sake. It was later released on the 360 and received a couple expansions and sequels. Now, when I think of Warriors Orochi, I think of the third entry on PS4, Vita, and Xbox One. This entry includes not only the Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors characters, but also several original and guest characters from other mythologies and titles. This year, Warriors All-Stars was released to the West. It's not quite Warriors Orochi, but seems to be the spiritual successor. This time, instead of mixing Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors together with a few guest characters, Koei opted for a more Smash Bros. Affair, only bringing a few notable characters from their various games. I did a video on Warriors All-Stars discussing the characters I wanted to see in it. Only a couple actually made it in, but DLC is also in the talks too. Even though I was disappointed with the roster size and lack of my main men, Shahodun, Keiji Maeda, and Achilles, I was still excited to get my hands on it. So without further ado, let's take a look at the games and find out if Warriors All-Stars is a suitable successor to Warriors Orochi. Let's take a look at these two games from the outside, not as a fan, but as a... Wait a minute. This feels a little too familiar. Yeah, whatever. Warriors Orochi definitely beats out Warriors All-Stars for its character roster, boasting around 150 playable characters. It's mostly from Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, but there are some guest characters from Ninja Gaiden, Dead or Alive, Warriors Legends of Troy, Zil-Ol, and some original characters too. Warriors All-Stars has more variety in its characters, and has much more representation to Koei Tecmo's vast library of games. As I said in my Disgusted episode on the roster, I feel a little let down at the lack of legacy titles. Stuff like Crimson Sea, Rygar, Monster Rancher, and the Tecmo Sports series seem to have been swept away by time. It makes sense from a business standpoint to only include the newer characters, but Opuna is in here. Warriors Orochi definitely looks like an older game. Even on the PS4, it looks like a previous generation title. While Warriors All-Stars looks so good, the environments, the character models, everything. The texture quality in All-Stars beats out Orochi all day, every fucking day. Before you jump into these games, there are a few things that you need to know. First off, in Warriors All-Stars, there is no free mode for you to go back and play previous stages. There is only story mode. Sadly, this means that if you didn't get the S ranking on that stage, you can't fix that. At least not right away. There's also nothing extra other than the story to do in this spin-off. I mean, there's lots of side missions and stuff to do in the story mode, and it will take a lot of your time if you want to go for everything. But it's just the idea that that's it, that's all that's available to you. In Warriors Orochi, you always have a free mode available to you, even though it's easier to jump into the story mode and use the level select from there. In every iteration of Warriors Orochi, there is a versus or duel mode that is similar to a fighting game but with Warriors characters and controls, meaning it's not very deep, but it's there if you want it. In Warriors Orochi 3, you can also make your own battles via the Muso Battlefield, and these can be shared online. Plus, in Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, you get Gauntlet mode, which is a hell of an experience to say the least. And we'll get to that soon enough. Moving on to the gameplay and story. One thing about Warriors Orochi is that it's never really been about the story. Essentially, Orochi, the snake demon, decides he wants to take over the world and he matches himself against the strongest warriors in history, which only includes Chinese and Japanese warriors because no one was ever stronger than them in the history of the Earth. Search it up. Google it. It's a fact. Orochi gets his ass beat by the various warriors, both eras, and everything goes back to normal. Except it doesn't, because Warriors Orochi 2 is a thing. Daji wants to revive Orochi, to do it all over again, and we followed essentially the exact same story, but with some small changes. Nothing big, except for the final fight, we have to take on Orochi X, which, if Mega Man X has taught me anything, it's that putting an X at the end of your name makes you stronger and cooler. And slightly more profitable. Then we have Warriors Orochi 3, which... oh look! They're trying to revive Orochi again. This time Orochi's death seems to spawn this Hydra that kills everyone, and thanks to the help of some of the mystics from the old games and some new ones, you have to hop around the timeline to figure out what in the flying fuck happened for everybody to die, and try to fix this whole mess. This time when you finally defeat the Hydra, it creates several Orochis. Once you take them out, Orochi X appears, you kill him, and everything's fine and dandy. That is until Koei released Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate. Then you find out this fox lady was behind everything the whole time. You kill her and everything is back to being fine and dandy. With the exception that you still need to complete Gauntlet mode, which I have yet to do because this fucking game takes up so much time. Gauntlet mode is a much harder challenge for you where enemies continuously respawn, and you have to find the exit of each map using these dragon portals, some of which give you buffs, while others do the exact opposite. Oh, did I mention that there's a miasma that continues to grow in level, and the higher the level, the stronger the enemies that continuously respawn are? Luckily, you can take up to 5 characters into battle with you, but leveling is so much slower in this than in story mode, so I recommend you beef up your 5 favorite characters before you take on this mode. You also get different formations that change your stats when they're active, and there's even a fuck off and do whatever you want formation, and you can quickly switch between the characters on the fly so that you can find the dragon portal faster. I much prefer just going with a formation that keeps all of my officers near me, because if one dies, you automatically switch to the next, meaning that you could lose your footing pretty easily if you slip and fall onto Shahadun's big-ass sword. Warriors All-Star's story is much more concrete and feels more solid. It's a similar story of warriors from many lands coming together, but this time to save the new world, not to save a mixture of both worlds. Koei Tecmo really seemed to put a lot of world building into this new world. Rather than plopping the Sanadamaru in Luoyang, there are separate stages from each world that these characters were originally from. This brave new world that the warriors are sucked into is filled with these random furries, which, let's be honest, would fit perfectly into a 90s cartoon or comic. There are 3 factions that are vying for the throne, which each one believes they are the chosen hero to save the world. Tamaki is a quiet young girl. Setsuna very much reminds me of Sun Tzu, a very passionate and heated personality, and Shiki is a calm and collected character. Each of them feels like they are the strongest person to take on the throne, work with the heroes, and restore the spring that gives this world life. Depending on who you start off with, they will default to siding with one of these 3, but you will have the chance to unlock pretty well every single character through the story mode no matter who you choose. Besides story missions, there are also side missions that strengthen the friendship of the various warriors. Others that give you bonus experience, gold, cards, which are like items, and many others. There are quests given to you by each of the characters as you unlock them. These can be something like killing 500 enemies to completing a stage very quickly. Some are even fetch quests looking for a number of items from the various games from Koei Tecmo. In the town, you can also talk to other characters you've unlocked in the tavern, inn, and the practice area. This gives you more information as to how these characters would interact with each other. I just love watching Lubu try to play this Tecmo arcade game. He's probably failing really hard at Ninja Gaiden. But more than that, where you'll have the most character connections is in the bathhouse. Yes, you get to go bathing with some of your favorite characters. Between this and the friendship moments, the character relationships really blossom. I once walked in on Lubu as Wang Yuanji, and he was just like, "Join me if you'd like, it won't bother me." And that's exactly how I think Lubu would react naturally. He's not concerned about tits and ass. He's here just to relax. And that's how a lot of these relationships really flourish. It just feels so human and pure to go through these conversations. This game is fairly different, but if you're used to Warriors games in general, you'll know what to expect. In Warriors Orochi, the Dynasty Warriors characters control like they did in Dynasty Warriors, and the Samurai Warriors characters control like they did in Samurai Warriors. Makes sense, right? In Warriors Orochi 1 and 2, the Dynasty Warriors characters are as their 5th iteration, while the Samurai Warriors characters are their 2nd. In Warriors Orochi 3, the Dynasty Warriors characters are their 7th iteration, with some moveset changes to differentiate the clones, and Samurai Warriors characters are their 3rd iteration. In Warriors All-Stars, each character plays like a traditional Dynasty Warriors combo set, a string of 6 normal attacks with a charge attack ending after each normal attack. The Musos are also done in the same way as Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8. Rather than a long string of moves, you get one special attack. Each character feels very different from the next, and I never felt like I was getting bored of playing through each stage with a smaller roster. Even at the beginning when I only had like 4 or 5 characters. But each time I unlocked a new character, it was like a fanfare playing in the background as I ran through these stages. Speaking of fanfares, the music in Warriors All-Stars might actually beat out Dynasty Warriors 4 as my favorite soundtrack of any Warriors game. Warriors Orochi's soundtrack was mostly reused songs with a couple of techno-ish remixes. Warriors All-Stars brings many of our favorite songs from each of these titles while recomposing them as full orchestral rock. This brass section in every song feels so amazing, especially in songs like City of Flowers and Sacred Ground. They are done so much better in the Warriors All-Stars than probably the originals. I mean, I'm a big music guy and a lover of elaborately orchestrated rock. It is so good. The other very large difference is how your team comes into effect. In Warriors Orochi, you take 3 characters into battle that you swap back and forth with. These characters do not take to the battlefield when you're not playing them. They just sit on the sidelines until you tell them to come out. This can make stages fly by. Switching between characters almost feels like you're jumping into a new stage, as most Warriors games only have you controlling one character until the end. Warriors All-Stars, on the other hand, allows you to take a team of 5. The leader of your team is the character you'll be playing as, while the other 4 follow you and play the supporting role. These act almost like the bodyguards of the old games. I find that they can get in the way, but are often welcome during harder moments in the game. Playing as one single character can make the stages feel like they're dragging on. While I love playing as these characters, I would have rather keeping the 3-member team and swap throughout the stages. In both games, they do allow you to call your teammates out in different ways. In Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, you can hit a button on the D-pad and the resting team members will jump into action and act like bodyguards, similar to how your other members would act naturally in Warriors All-Stars. In that game, you can hit each of the D-pad buttons to call on your teammates to join you in a chain of attacking warriors. You can call out all 4 of your members, making a chain of 5 warriors. This is, for the most part, pretty useless. It just helps when you're surrounded by really strong enemies. In the end, both games have their pros and cons. No, I'm not gonna do it.
Pro!
I said no!
Con!
Fuck! So as I was saying, each game has its flaws. Warriors Orochi doesn't feel like it has an incredible variety in its characters. Many feel the same as others. The guest characters are the ones that feel fresh and new. Meanwhile, Warriors All-Stars may have a smaller roster, but each character feels like a newer experience from each other. Though they all play very much the same, their movements are very different. Having a larger roster size helps Warriors Orochi a lot, while having a larger spread of titles involved really works well in Warriors All-Stars' favor. The maps definitely feel more new in Warriors All-Stars, mainly because only the Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors maps are reused, and even then they've been retextured to fit into this new world. Though it's interesting to see the mixed stages in Warriors Orochi, it just feels like I've been here before. So with all that being said, let's talk about Warriors Orochi. It was the winner of my Dynasty Warriors vs Samurai Warriors comparison episode. It brings the best of both worlds plus more, including every character from Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires and Sengoku Musou 3Z, on top of having a mixture of guests and original characters means you'll be playing this game for a very long time if you want to complete it. Hell, even just getting the characters up to level 50 is a grind in itself. Gauntlet mode is fun at first, but the novelty seems to wear off pretty quickly, and you'll only really want to play it to unlock that final character. When you jump into story mode, you won't really care about it because it's all in Japanese and it's hard to follow while the action is happening. That being said, the gameplay here is exactly what you need to scratch that hack and slash itch. Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate gets a 9 out of 10. Warriors All-Stars definitely steps up in the story department, even though it has the same issue as Warriors Orochi in the fact that it has Japanese voice acting, with the exception of William from Nioh. You won't find yourself as lost in the plot as you would Warriors Orochi. Warriors All-Stars drives the story in every bit of its dialogue. It's more than just characters interacting like in Warriors Orochi. It feels more genuine and much more grounded. The roster size is a joke compared to Warriors Orochi 3, but what's not a joke is the spread of characters from the various games in Koei Tecmo's repertoire, each feeling like care was put into their movesets, special abilities, and so on. You really feel like you're taking a hold of a new game when you jump in as a character who has never had a Warriors experience. All I can say is that I'm really hopeful Warriors All-Stars receives DLC for new characters, and maybe even a story expansion. Plus, the music. When I get a chance, I am importing that soundtrack. Every bit of it is perfect and suits the mood. Whether you're in the village or on the battlefield, you'll feel just the right emotion from the tunes playing in the background. So with all that said, I give Warriors All-Stars an 8 out of 10. Yes, I still prefer playing Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate on my PS4, and actually really enjoyed going back to play Warriors Orochi 2 on my 360. I might even play more of the PSP version because I think there's some extra costumes on that one. But the only thing that Warriors All-Star lacks in compared to Warriors Orochi is content. Warriors All-Stars is still fun and can give you a newer, fresher feeling in a Warriors crossover title if that's something that you're looking for. But if you really want to buy something that's worth your money and has loads of replayability, I'd still recommend Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate as the king of Warriors games. Now, you may have noticed that I rated it 0.5 lower than Dynasty Warriors 8, but that's more so because Warriors Orochi isn't the best entry point for new Warriors players. Both Warriors Orochi and Warriors All-Stars serve better as Warriors fan service games. Both will scratch the itch if you've been craving Warriors games more than the usual Samurai or Dynasty Warriors characters, but Orochi just has more content for you to sink your teeth into. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to let me know what your favorite Warriors game is and how you think that these two stack up against each other. Give the video a like and subscribe as it helps this channel grow. If you'd like to check out my other videos, you can click the top video to be taken to my comparison between Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, or you can check out this playlist for all things Koei Tecmo on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you down in the comments.